Okay, now we're recording as well. So again, this is part of teaching with technology, isn't it? Yeah, it's just part of the fun. Sometimes things work well and sometimes they don't. I don't really want to get started until we get closer to how many participants we had before. We've got 73 now, including me, I see. So we need about 20 more, 30, 25 or so. Let's just wait just a moment. Yeah, how do you all feel? Sometimes it's good to, I don't know about you, I do this with my students when there's problems like this. I say, everyone, okay, lift your arms up, do some physical things, just to kind of stretch yourself out. Yeah, I like that, twisting your head and neck. This is really good. This is just something I'm just killing time for a moment till we get everyone on, but especially I learned this when the first time I started teaching children. Children can teach you a lot. It's like kitty cats. You ever watch a cat? Cats can teach you a lot too. You ever notice, of course, that cats stretch when they wake up and before they go to sleep? Why do they do that? They stretch out, you see them just extend and then they come back. I think it's really important to be aware of your body, because sometimes when we get, we're school teachers, and we spend a lot of time doing work and over a computer or in the classroom with books or on the blackboard, and I think it's very easy to forget about your body, because you don't realize that you're using a certain position over and over, and you don't realize you're kind of crouching a lot, and then you feel uncomfortable, or maybe you're stressed a little, and you don't realize that it's actually your body that's making you stressed. I can tell you about a wonderful educator who taught, one of her main focuses is about the four senses, teaching with four senses. She says all five, but of course, the first sense we all use, but it's hard to use taste. That's the thing, right? Taste is hard to use when you're teaching. But she teaches about using all your senses, and she talks about the idea. Her name is Jane Ravel, if you've ever heard of her. She talks about this, how your body, how you actually position your body and your awareness can change everything for you. It can change your attitude, and that's very important. She uses that kind of knowledge to teach. To design her lessons. She considers all senses when she teaches. She does teach about taste too, but you can't quite do that one the same as the others. Yeah. Okay, it looks like we have 83 participants now. We haven't quite got back to the number we had. I hope we can get some more on. I guess I should continue. I don't know if Mr. Lin is there. Should I continue, Mr. Lin, if you're there? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start here because this is being recorded, so the other participants I think can watch this on YouTube later. Okay. Let me go back to where I was about when I started to share my screen. There. Can you all see my screen now? Yeah? Okay, yes. Good. Yes. Wonderful. I just wanted to check that real quick. Let me stop sharing just for a second so I can point out something. You all do know about Zoom and how you can react on Zoom to things during the lessons, right? If unfortunately, when I share screen, I can't show you the Zoom screen, but that you can use the reactions on the bottom, so you can raise your hand. Do you see how that little hand comes up? Can everybody raise their hand on the Zoom so we can see that you guys know how to use the Zoom reaction where you're raising your hands? Yeah, it looks like you all are kind of doing that. Yeah, and you can raise your hand and lower your hand. So if you have a question, that's a good way for me to recognize that you want to say something, right? Or you have a question. It doesn't have to be a question, by the way. And of course, you can also give me little signals like, yeah, thumbs up, or you can give me the, you like something with the heart. Everybody likes the hearts. Yeah. So again, you can do reactions. I also use the chat quite a bit. I like the chat over here. So in the chat, you can just say hi to everyone. And sometimes I'll ask you some questions. I'll just, just a quick question, and so I can see what your responses are over there. Okay, so let's use the chat as well while we're doing this. Okay. Yeah. Let me go back to sharing now. Yeah, this first webinar, number one, is actually the topic is actually strategies for improving student engagement and interaction. This is where I wanted to begin. This is where I wanted to begin our series of 4, because this webinar series, what we're going to do is we're going to try to start kind of wide. This is the same way I teach my courses usually in university here in Ewha. I mean, in Korea at my university, Ewha. And we start wide and then we focus in on the details. So again, in this series, our next webinar is going to build on the foundation that we do in this webinar. And so we're going to be more detailed the next webinar, number 2. And then number 3 is where we're really going to get into the materials. That's when I'm going to we're really going to be workshopping in that third one. Okay, that's where we're going to have, excuse me, the textbooks, and we're going to be working with the materials that you may be using in the classroom. You should be. I need to find out from you today, during today's webinar and the next one. I need to find out exactly what you're doing and which levels you're using, so I can tailor how I kind of show you things that I would do if I was in your situation. So I need to understand your situation, okay? So that's why part of the reason I wanted to start general on this first webinar, to get to know you. And so that's kind of my first aim, is that it's important for me to know about what you guys are doing in your teaching. Okay, so I'm going to have a couple Jamboard actually interactions where I get to see some of your comments. And on the website that Mr. Lim talked about for our course, the Tech for Teach website, which is here. Again, you didn't get to see it there with Mr. Lim, but here is our homepage, and you can see that here I've already included some stuff for you for the first webinar. And one of the things that I included here is the Prezi link to my materials that I'm talking about today. So if you go and click this link, you can actually follow along on a separate window as you want. You can look ahead or look behind. If I go past something, you want to look back at it. So this link right here, you'll be able to access later. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link, and I'll go ahead and put this in the chat for everyone. So you can go ahead and there we go. So you guys can click on that and see exactly what I'm doing right now, okay? And then later, again, you'll have access to our webpage here, and you'll be able to see other things. And I put a lot in this folder here for webinar 1. You can see that I already put a bunch of files here, that some of these are ones that I create and some of this is background. Okay. So again, this I'm going to point you to here, because after our webinar is done, I should say, I'm going to be trying to get information from you as much as I can, so that I can tailor our future webinars to be more and more targeted to exactly what you want, exactly how to help you. Okay, so that's our first goal. So our second goal today, again, is to confirm the fundamentals of engagement. Okay, my purpose in these webinars is to give you how is to give you tips and kind of get your kind of mind, let you wrap your mind around, let you think about how you can make your classroom more engaging, more interactive, have the students be interested in the materials more. And that's what I'm trying to do. So it's important for me to know about your situation and to make sure that you guys know the basics that I assume that you know. Okay. Now, I don't know specifically about you yet. So today I wanted to kind of discuss these fundamentals and have you guys tell me kind of also to confirm what you already know and what you might not know. Okay. Yeah, as Dr. Ho said in the introduction, these topics that I'm giving you are not new. This is, you've probably, I don't know how many of you have already attended webinars such as this, or you've seen on YouTube, you can go see a lot of videos with these kinds of topics, right? But what I hope to do in my overall series here is to actually get you to kind of change your perspective a little, right? I'm trying to give you a kind of different way of looking at the same thing. So the materials are not, I think, different, or the ideas are not that different, but I hope to show you a different way to look at it. I give you a fresh view that maybe will help you to be in the right frame of mind to be able to make very engaging activities in the classroom. Okay, so again, let's take a look at that at the beginning here. I should back up just for a second and show you what I'm going to be talking about. This is a Prezi, as you see that it's kind of a PowerPoint. If you don't know Prezi, this is like an online PowerPoint that you can use anytime, and you can take this Prezi program that's online, and you can take it offline. You can save it as a Prezi, and then you can use it even when your internet doesn't work. So it's quite good for that in case you have internet connection problems or technical problems. So if you're ever going to use Prezi, I recommend it for that. Above kind of, and the other bonus about it being better than PowerPoint, I think, is that it's much more interactive and fun. You can do many more kind of smoother things and more. I think it's got a better flow to it overall. Students find it more engaging. Okay, so you can see today we're gonna start like I always do with an introduction activity in the intro, and I have a kind of conclusion with questions in the outro. And in between our content today, you might notice that there are some highlighted letters here: collaboration and relevancy, a culture of learning, video multimedia, and then exploration. So if you look at those highlighted letters, you realize that it says CRAVE. It forms the acronym CRAVE. I'm going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. But what I want to do is start with us today. There we go. What I want to do is start with us by kind of interacting a bit on a Jamboard. Have you guys ever used Google Jamboard? Do you know Google Jamboard in Google Classroom? We're going to be talking. Good. It sounds like some of you have. We're going to be talking about Google Classroom later when I'm talking about presentation materials and really interactive things. But Google Jamboard is a good one for having basic interactions on. So here's what I would like us to do quickly. I have this Google Jamboard with two questions that you can answer just one of these or both of these. So the first question on the top is, what helps engagement in your classroom? What I mean is, what are some basic ideas that work for you? When you want to when you're designing an activity or a lesson, what do you go to? What's your go-to thing? Like, oh, I can do that because that's always good for the students. They like that. That creates a good, that works. basically. So what are those things? It can be just an activity name, or it can be something that you do. You decide. The second one on the bottom there is what hurts your engagement. So do you notice anything that kind of, that often, again, you do activities again and again and again, or you do lessons again and again? What are some of the things that kind of get in your way? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let me show you this. Here is the actual Jamboard. Do you see the Jamboard? This is the real Jamboard. You can see that this Jamboard is interactive if you don't know it. If you look over here on the left side of Jamboard, I'm going to give you this link right here. So again, I can go, if you're making, once you make a Jamboard, you can actually share it like this. Again, I've already set it up here so that everyone, it's not restricted. Usually it starts like this, restricted, but you can get rid of the restriction and say anyone with the link can play on this board. So you can do this with your students. And then you change it from viewer to editor because you want them to be able to change it too. And then you just copy the link. And again, I'll put that here for you. There it is in the chat. Can you see it in the chat? Everyone go ahead and click that in the chat. Okay, don't do anything yet because I want to just show you what I want you to do. I see that a lot of you are joining right now. That's good. Go ahead and jump in there. I'm going to just show you while you're doing that. I'm going to show you what I would like for you to do. If you go on the left side of the board here, you can see that you can do lots of things with like making, well, I have the wrong color. Black is not going to show up on black, but you can see that, of course, if you haven't used Jamboard, yeah, somebody's having fun there. you can make lines there, and I can clear that off up here. So if I'm teaching, if you're the teacher, you can write on the board. Look, you guys can write. Everybody just squiggle on the board. Make something. Go ahead and do something on the board. Yeah, try it, you guys. Just hit the pen and do that. Yeah, you can put shapes. Yeah, go ahead, go crazy. Get used to it. It's pretty simple, right? If you haven't used it before, you can see you can do that. You can also grab the eraser and kind of erase things that you've done. You can erase other people's stuff too, as you see. Okay, and again, you can play with this and see, oh, by the way, you can grab the text box too, which is going to be something you might want to do, and you can click on it, and then you can type something in like, hi, everyone. I'm in white. I can see, I can't see it, but I can click it and move it. Oops, what did I do? I moved someone's box. Sorry, I didn't mean to move your box. But let me go ahead and make a text box up here in the white. There, somebody did hello. That's good. So I can do hi, everyone. And again, I'm in gray color, so I can highlight it. And I can go up here and say, I want to use, oops. There we go. Let me get this over here. Let me just show you that I can change that to white. There we go. So again, you can change the colors and the text. Okay. All right, everybody stop for a minute. You guys got a feeling for it now. So everybody stop. And then what I'm going to do is just clear everything, because if I'm the teacher, I can clear the frame. You guys can too right now. So you got to beware your students can clear the frame. If they cause trouble, by the way, if your students are doing this and they start doing things they shouldn't, then you can go back to the share button and you can say right here, oh, I don't want you guys to edit anymore. I can change you back to viewers. So you students, that was enough fun. You stop it. And so I could just go, boom, I'm not letting you guys do anything now. I'm the teacher. I have control. So you guys right now try to do something. You shouldn't be able to do anything, right? Okay, so I think you get the point. Let me show you now what I would like for you to do for this activity. I'd like you to go grab a Post-it note. You see right there where I clicked? Over here on the left under the arrow, I clicked the Post-it note, and you can choose whatever color you want. But what I'd like you to do is just kind of answer the question. Either you pick one of those questions, like what helps you engage in the classroom? I saw somebody already wrote games. Like you said, games help. That's great. So you can say that if you want. If you want, you can answer both. You can say like games help, distraction, or how about noise? Noisy students hurt. I don't know, right? So then you can take that Post-it note and again, then click on it. And what I'd like you to do is just downsize it a little bit and put it into one of these boxes so that everybody has a box. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll turn this back on for you in a moment and I'll let you guys go ahead and just put your comments up here. If it's a hurt comment, maybe the first ones, you might put them down here if it's only hurt or only help, but we have 30 boxes. We have a lot of people. So I don't know, we're let this go. If there's no box for you, then you can just put it anywhere. You can put it up here if you want, but try to put it in the boxes to start out with. If you want, maybe you could even make it small so you could put 2 in one box. It's up to you. Okay. Let me go ahead and share it back. Let you guys go ahead and edit. Okay. So go ahead and put your comments on there, please. I'll clear the frame and let you guys go. Oh, too many attendees and the latecomers cannot join, I see. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we have some. I tell you what, the next activity, let's do the honor system, please, since we can't get everyone on here at once. Anyone who's joined on here right now, go ahead and put your comments on. And if you can't join the next activity like this, we're going to have another couple of these, at least one more. And then the participants who do it this time, please don't do it next time. So everybody gets a chance, okay? I see encouragement. Yeah, group work. Yeah, I'm starting to see some good comments. Again, go ahead and make sure you move your comment around so we can see it. Put it in a different box, please. Yeah, someone's using the marker, so you need to go to the sticky note. Yeah, you're doing some erasing there. I like it. You're learning how to do it. That's good. Okay, encouragement. I see stories and videos, pair work, group work, games, songs, English songs. So we've got 2 songs. Passive students, yeah. What else have we got? Don't judge. Bonus. I think that's like rewards. I see a lot of songs, physical interactions. I like that one. Yeah, I like all of them, but yeah. Oh, too many tasks can hurt you. Yeah, role playing. Oh, I like that. I'm going to be talking about a lot of these. You guys are on it. Yeah, someone wrote games there in the back. That's fine. Yeah. Variety of activities. Again, with you guys with your Post-it notes, go ahead and click on them and try downsizing them. Make them smaller by grabbing the corner of them after you click on them. Yeah, there you go. So they fit in the boxes. So we can see all of them. Because what we want to do is take a screenshot after. I'll take a screenshot of this after. You can do that. I'll save this board and then we can have, some materials that we look at later. So try to make it neat if you can. If your message is not in a square, then go ahead and put it in there, please. Yeah, okay. We've got almost all the boxes in now. Interesting topics, physical interactions, yeah. Okay. All right, time limit, yeah. Time. I was wondering if somebody was going to say time. Good, somebody figured out how to turn their Post-it sideways, good. You can put, that's the thing is that students are so good these days. That's one of the first things that you probably know about your students and about technology is that technology is really for kids. Did you know that design is really for kids? That how you learn how to use technology, how you use these programs is not by really reading about them. It's by clicking every button you can. What does this do? What does this do? I'm going to talk about my research in next class at the beginning of our next webinar that showed that that's how students learn these days. They learn by doing, by just clicking it. It's called play to learn. That was one of my findings in my research. That it's a very different way of approaching. It's different than you and I, than all of us learned when we were in school, I think. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down now. It looks like we've done a pretty good job here. Yeah. So again, you can see I'm able to move these things around. I can click on this interruptions again. Looks like interruptions and boring lessons. Yeah, variety. Yeah, games, pair work. I see a lot of pair work in games and songs. Those are the things that seem to interactions, pair work, games, songs. And again, the things that hurt seem to be boring lessons, time, uh, bias. Yeah, I see that act. Oh, yeah. So, huh, interesting. Somebody still has access. I didn't do that. Anyway, okay, good. Now let's go ahead and go back to my Prezi here. Yeah. Let's see. Am I able to? I don't want to clear the frame. I don't want to mess with this right now. This is interesting. Yeah, this is good. Okay. Maybe I have to take the eraser on these right now to get these? How come there's blue across here? This is really interesting. How did blue get on top of everything? I haven't seen that happen before. Wow. I have to explore what happened there. Very interesting. Yeah, how do you change the font size and letters for teachers? Somebody has a quick question here. When you're doing text, you can see the box up in the top left. Can you see up here? So that's how you change it. In these messages, when you're doing text box, you can change your font and all of that. When you're doing these post-it notes over here, you can't. It just takes it the way it takes it. Okay. But when you're doing the text box, then you can change all of those things. Again, just play with everything and you can learn how to do it. Okay. This is going to be interesting with these marks on my screen. Oh, there they go. Some of them are, wow. That's fun. Okay, let's continue on here. So we got some ideas. Good, thank you all. We got some good ideas. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what, again, this material I assume includes things that you already know. But do you know these things? Again, I don't really know that much about you all and what you know or don't know, but I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page, that we all, again, these materials are not new topics, but it should be things that you know already. So, what do professionals, I'll put my quotations in the air, what do they say are the most important things to make your classroom engaging? What do they say? Well, they say that it's important for the teacher to be organized because that helps the students to get things done and to stay on task, right? The routines that you establish in your classroom, students love routines. I'm sure you guys, again, I assume you guys all know these things, but if you don't have routines established, then it can make students uncomfortable. Now, be careful. Routine does not mean that you make everything the same. It doesn't mean the same. It means that you have spaces that are set kind of. You like the students are aware of what's possible, what the possible things are that you normally do. So you establish that at the beginning and then you repeat them. And students don't have to go, what's this? They already know, that we're going to do that kind of thing because the teacher talked about that. We did that, once or twice before. So a routine doesn't mean that it's exactly the same every time. It means that it's comfortable to the students and it's consistent. The students know what's happening. You're not, causing chaos because you know how much time is wasted when technology doesn't work or when the students are busy trying to figure out what you're trying to say. Participation is important for engagement. Have you heard the expression talking partners? This is something that you can do. You can just tell students, you can designate. You can say, okay, everybody's going to, at the beginning of the class, when the semester starts or when the year starts or whatever this block is, whenever you have new students, you set them down and you have them all and you say, okay, everybody needs to have a talking partner. This is whenever I tell you guys to talk, this is the person you talk to. And what's interesting is you can change that in many different ways. Like you could have a list of numbers, like, okay, if you have 30 students, for example, then you could have the number 1 to 15 and then the number 1 to 15 again. And so then you say, okay, ones talk together. Then you can say, 2 and 7s talk together. Again, they have that number. They know they're a 1. They know that they are a number 2. That's part of the routine. They know, oh, I'm a number 1. Whenever the teacher says, number 1, do something, then I know I'm one of those number 1s. I do it. So do you see how you can you're getting a routine going, but you don't have to say number 1 always talks to the other number 1. Number 1 can talk to number 10, right? Or you could have, okay, 2 and 5s, 2 and 3 talk to 4 and 5s. You can, again, those are talking partners. Choice. Whenever you can, you want to empower the students, and that allows them, when you have students making choices, then they set the pacing. And this is really key because students progress at different speeds, and how a lesson is boring. The number one reason that students really, if you really ask them why is something boring, it's because they got it. They are at a different pace than some other students. Some students take longer and they want to take longer. They like to focus more. Others like to go faster. Again, that's why the self-pacing and the choice, giving choice to students whenever you can, really will help make your lessons more interesting. Discussions, of course, help. Socializing, interacting, getting students up and about, I'm going to talk about, but especially just getting them talking. Because remember, English, especially when you're teaching language, English is a language. And as much as you can get them actually having a purpose to talk to each other and having someone to talk to rather than just the teacher, then that's going to get you further down the road. It's going to be more interesting, and you're going to get them using the language, the target language. Group activities also help for differentiation so that you can, again, customize each group. If you have a group that's, you can design groups in different ways, but to maximize their kind of progress. So again, if you're having a group that are struggling, you could put someone who's a little better in that group to help them. Again, there are many ways to arrange groups. We can talk about those. Hands-on activities, more physicality. You guys mentioned that some of you mentioned that in the Jamboard a moment ago. Less talking for the teacher is always better. More doing. And it doesn't matter how old your students are. A lot of teachers think that the young students are the only ones that this applies to, young learners, but it's not true. Everybody likes physicality. So whenever you can, get them up, get them walking around, get them using their hands, get them using their everything, not just their voices or just their pens or paper or whatever they're using for class. Get them physically using as much of their bodies as you can. And again, that can be disruptive. We'll talk about how to kind of help that out. Movement generally really helps. There are activities that you might have heard of, like actually having students do workshops where you actually have them go around the class in what's often called a gallery walk, where they're going and looking at a certain object in one location in the room and doing an activity and then moving physically to another. Again, getting them up and around and using their hands is going to be more active. It's really simple, really, but especially for boys. Boys have been shown to be needing this very much. If you have trouble with especially discipline with boys, get them to do more movement at the beginning of class. Give them very active activities at the beginning. Let them get that out. Let them yell and scream if you can. I don't know your situation, but that's for young learners. But for older learners, even for older learners, getting the boys to go out and stretch their legs especially, but really anyone, girls also benefit from this as well. And of course, you guys mentioned games. A lot of people think, though, that games are really kind of the teacher sets it up and then kind of runs them and then says, okay, we're done. But again, when you think about choice and group, you can actually have the students decide which games they want to do, and they can pick the games, and you can just help them to do what they decide, not just have a teacher-centered game for the whole class together. And rewards, as you guys also mentioned, individual rewards and groups are, you can really create interest by getting them to work towards something. And we're going to talk about how rewards don't have to be the obvious rewards that we think of. They can be in a lot of different forms. Okay. So which of these elements are you the most interested in? In the chat box there on the side, just type the numbers. You can put one number or two, but don't put any more than 3. Put like your top 3 if you're going to put 3. But look at the 1 to 10 and go ahead and put which ones you're interested in. Like, again, you want to know more about it, or maybe you use it a lot. I see 3, participation, hands-on activities. Yeah, 9s, 10s. Yeah, we're getting a variety here. 7 and 9, 3 and 9. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'll look at this text later. This is helping me, by the way. I'm doing something called needs analysis right now, right? This is what I'm going to talk about in a moment that you guys can do to help to help you to be more engaging with your students. Like I'm trying to be more engaging with you guys by trying to learn more about you at the beginning. So yeah, put those numbers there. I'll look at the text when we're done with this Zoomy webinar, and I can learn from that, and I'll tailor again everything, all the information and feedback I get from you guys. I'm going to be changing what my materials will be in the future webinars, because that helps to make it more engaging. Of course, it's more practical to you. So I want to focus it. Always focus it on what I can. Okay, everybody's kind of done that. That's good. So yeah, again, when you look back at this list, this is a big list, 10 elements. I don't really use all of the, I mean, I use all of these already, but I don't think of them. I don't think about all 10. It's impossible. They say humans can only remember 7 things at once, right? Typically that's the group. 7, over 7, you kind of start forgetting. But I like to think of it with the acronym, like I mentioned earlier, of CRAVE. And you can think about it like students crave to learn, right? They crave education. They want it. Crave means when you have a craving, it means you really want it and you can't help it. You have a desire. So it's real motivation, right? So crave, when you think about crave, what is crave? Oh, I'm curious right now. Can you guys see these blue and yellow lines all over the place on the screen? Can you guys answer in the chat? Can anybody, you guys can see these?
Yes, you can still see the.
Good. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you guys can see them. I don't want to go try to get rid of them. I think I know how to get rid of them, but I don't want to. I want to that's another part of the kind of lesson that we're going to be talking about is not to take yourself too seriously. Again, it's not just for children. It's not for primary, secondary. When you're teaching, it's actually fine to let things kind of not go the way that you thought, as long as it doesn't take away from your, what you're trying to accomplish. You adapt to it. You just let it go. It's kind of fun to have these lines all over the place. And to me, I am able to look past it. So I don't let the little things in class bother me. I always try to keep a good attitude. We're going to be talking about that, how you don't kind of get distracted or bothered by things that don't quite work the way you planned. And again, that can really throw you off. So what is CRAVE? Well, C in CRAVE is collaboration. This is to make your classes engaging, you need to make them social. They need to be, and again, you can see you're creating, you're producing. The students are creating and producing. Keep that in your mind, that when they're collaborating, they're doing. They're not quote unquote learning. If you say, oh, let's learn this, I think in many ways that kind of goes over the head of most students, or it doesn't really hit the heart of what you're, it's a side issue. What we're doing is we are accomplishing something together. And again, not just by ourselves, doing it together, learning how to collaborate, not just cooperate, but how to collaborate is really important to make your lessons interactive and interesting for the participants. So you can think of it with this graphic. Of course, two heads are better than one, right? The idea that when you collaborate, you really do come up with ideas that you couldn't have come up with by yourself. You just couldn't. It's a fact. It's a cliche for a reason. Okay. The second R in the acronym is relevancy. Again, finding the commonality between what you're trying to teach, your materials, and what the students are bringing to your classroom. And again, this is true for any level. So this diagram here shows you that the middle is going to be the most relevant. Whenever you can, when you can take what you want to say, what you want to teach, and you can push it into what they are interested in, the further you can push that in, the more interesting and relevant it's going to be, the more dynamic it's going to be. And we're going to talk about that. It takes a lot of time if you do it all at once, if you try to do it all at once, but you can't. You need to do it bit, by piece as part of your approach to teaching. Again, I'm going to talk about that more later. The A in CRAVE is a culture of learning. You can see that you emphasize process over product. You notice the word culture in culture of learning. Culture means that it's not just the lesson plan. It's not just the textbook. It's not just the task that you have them on. It includes everything. It's a big holistic idea about learning. But the key is process, not product. It's so easy for teachers to become lost in the product. You know, we have, for example, your students have to pass a test. So you think I have to teach them because it's my responsibility. They have to get this done. They have to get this done. That's how I'm evaluated as a teacher. So you tend to think by products. You think I want to accomplish this first, this second, this third, and you start kind of worrying or getting upset, or your lessons become a little bit too kind of like a factory, like a kind of, you know, rolling process that's not really that much fun. It can be boring to the students when they feel that you are just trying to tick boxes. I need to accomplish this. I need to do that. I need to do this. But again, I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of Greek, you know, Aristotle came up with these terms, the ethos, pathos, and logos. But when you teach, you should aim for that middle again. Credibility and trust just means that you as a teacher, that student, when they look at you, they know that you're going to tell them things that are good, that they know are right. They feel that you know what you're doing, right? And part of that comes from, believe it or not, it comes from you not being afraid to make mistakes in front of them. That's the thing that a lot of teachers don't, that they kind of fear is, oh, I want to get that lesson right. I don't want to mess up in front of the students. I don't want to show my weaknesses, or I want to look professional. And really, when it comes to ethos, it includes that kind of ethical, realistic, humanist kind of approach to say, make fun of yourself. Don't be afraid of that. It becomes across as more believable, more trustworthy. And of course, feeling is what they're going to get. The students are going to, when you're teaching, you should think about the students' imagination and their feelings with the lesson, because that they will learn better. They will be more interested. And of course, we all think about the kind of consistent logic in our lessons, that things make sense, you know, that they're arranged correctly. I think we have no problem with the logos. Teachers are taught to be teachers really by teaching logos, but the other two are the ones we need to work at. Okay. The next one, the V, is for video and multimedia. As I say there, tomorrow's tools, not just today. In the future, education is only becoming more and more multimedia based, right? As I mentioned before, it's changing the way that students learn. They're more visual, they're more tactile, they play to learn, they touch and find out, they explore to try to figure things out. That's what you do on the internet and all of your technology devices. So that's what you need to consider when you're teaching. When you're making lesson plans, you need to consider where you can use these things, because that's what's going to be more relevant to them. And again, you used to think of literacy as just paper and, being literate, reading and writing. But again, reading and writing is really moving more and more over to the multimedia side. But the basis that what those two share is going to be in your lesson plans, no matter what. Even in the future, if we move all to the blue circle, it's still going to be there, right? And finally, the E is the kind of putting this all together. The E is realizing that you want to explore. Again, learning is most interesting when it excites you, when it's intrinsically motivating, not extrinsically. So getting a good grade on a test is great, but that's not actually going to be a kind of motivation that's going to make your lessons interesting. Even if they get good grades, that's not going to be that's not the way to get your classes to become more interactive. You want to have real intrinsic motivation. And I'm going to talk about in the next lesson, especially what I think is the most interactive and engaging way to let your students learn is through what's called problem-based learning, PBL. Sometimes this is called project-based learning. PBL online, if you look at it, sometimes says project-based. But they're really kind of the same thing. Project-based is a bigger kind of category. So there are many different kinds of problem-based learning. I should say there are many kinds of project-based learning, but one of those is problem-based learning. That's a kind of project-based learning. We're going to talk about some other kinds of project-based learning as well. But again, when you combine not just understanding, which is the main thing that teachers try to go for, right? Teachers are trying to teach that lesson plan and so they focus on the students understanding it. But again, when you also make your lessons more experiential, again, by getting them up and physically moving around as much and collaborating and them generating the ideas and starting the project and finishing it themselves. Again, the role of the teacher is to try to get out of the way as much as you can, because that's going to be a more experiential, kind of memorable way of learning. And again, it empowers the student. So when you think about all three of these things together, you're going to have a much more dynamic lesson. It's impossible to have a boring lesson if it really is focused on all three of these, if it includes elements of all three. Okay. I'm stopping for a moment just to see before we move on. Do you guys have any comments that you'd like to say in the chat? Is there any kind of question or anything? This is, again, I assume that you guys kind of already have this information. You already know this. Maybe the idea of crave is new, the way I'm presenting it, but I think you guys all understand what makes a dynamic classroom generally, the things I just mentioned. Yeah, okay, I'm moving on. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with the C and the R, the collaboration and relevancy. Can I turn back to the last slide? I can. Just for a moment. I'm not sure why you need it, but let me go back to this slide and I'll just bounce through all these and let you see the whole thing at once. Yeah, there we go. Again, this Prezi is available to you through the link, so you could take screenshots of it. Yeah, and again, I'm also going to be providing this handout. If you look, let me just show you this real quick, because you don't really need to make notes as much as maybe you think you do, because if you look at it here, you can see I have it here, student engagement. If you click on that PDF and look at it, then you can see I have it here for you. I've made it into a PDF. It's got the, some reference materials where you can go look for more information about it, or, where I got these ideas from. Yeah, that's right. You don't need to log in to the Prezi link to be able to look at the Prezi link. You should be able to just click directly in. You're just a viewer, so it should just let you click on that play button and you can play around on my Prezi. But again, this PDF is available. It's already on there, and once you get the link to the web page, then you can just go on there and get it. Okay. Yeah. So collaboration and relevancy. Again, this is kind of a review. Again, this is my first purpose, is to learn more about what you guys are doing and to kind of make sure that we all know the basics before we start talking about, specific techniques that we need to do. So I'm just reviewing here, and I'm sorry if it's a little dull to review things, but I just want to make sure we all are on the same page and we understand these basic concepts. Collaboration. What if you want to develop collaboration, what's important? Well, you should create complex activities. Have you ever heard of the expression positive interdependence? You can go, again, I have this in the materials that I just showed you, one of those PDFs. Johnson, Johnson, and Holbeck. There's other, I gave you another one from another, but you can go look at it if you don't know it. But positive interdependence means that you create a situation where collaborating students actually depend on each other, but not in a bad way. It's in a again, collaborating means that you build on each other. You have responsibility to each other, and you come to depend on each other, not as a kind of like, I can't do anything without you. It's in a way that creates a link between the group members. Again, it creates when you do complexity, especially, then you allow the students who are collaborating to take parts or to do elements of it. You are allowed to divide the task. If the task is too simple, then it only has one element, one activity to do with only one thing, then the two students who are doing it both kind of step on each other a little, or one says, oh, I want to do it, and then the other one's quiet and she doesn't do it. So again, if you build in a little bit of like where it not crazy complex, but if you build parts to it, like, oh, it has this element, it has this element, we need to do both of these to get the job done. So that task requires us to work together and to kind of depend on each other. Again, if you look at the list there in the parentheses, when you're preparing team players, you're going to emphasize the benefits, then you're going to model the learning. And then very importantly, and this is the hardest part of this one, is to build in time. Your students need time to be able to collaborate together. They need to figure out how to negotiate with each other. They need to, sometimes they just sit there for a little bit and go, huh? Because it's not that they're not understanding, it's that they're figuring out, okay, what's a way to do this? They're being creative. When you're being creative, when you're actually interested in being creative, sometimes you pause. You go, wait a minute, okay, let me think about this, right? And I think teachers, when they see kind of quiet students not doing anything, you often just go, oh, let me get over there. Let me go, let me get them going. But I think if you're good at recognizing it when they're collaborating, pay attention to when they actually need the space, and you shouldn't go over there. We'll talk about that more. You want to minimizing free writing. Free writing means that the one student's doing all the work and the other one's not, right? One quiet student, one active student. So how you can do that is by having the smallest possible groups. You have them do something that they know that they need to do. And again, when you can give roles to different collaborators, that really helps. And again, when you can have them evaluate each other whenever possible. Again, it can be done in many different ways, but that's based on process-based learning, right? the kind of formative assessment. We're going to be talking about that in alternative assessments. Formative assessment, not summative. Maximizing discussion, of course, includes all the things I just talked about, but especially at the end there, consensus building. It's actually good to get the students to kind of make sure that they are able to kind of agree with each other. They don't have to agree with everything, but that negotiation process is important. So when you give them a role, or you give them a task, or they have different responsibilities, that you can't keep them apart. That's not collaborating. Collaborating means that you guys work as a team and you come back together to kind of finalize your task. You did it. You accomplished it. Again, it has a little bit of a kind of goal. Again, this is part of the reward that I was talking about, how you can reward things in a non-traditional way, how you can make a reward not just be something you would normally think of, but the kind of reward of really coming back together and realizing what you accomplished. I'm going to talk about Krashen for a moment. Do you know Stephen Krashen? Have you heard that name before in English linguistics? Krashen had something called the input hypothesis. His big contribution was about the idea of the formula. You see it there, N+1. Have you heard of N+1? N is the knowledge that the student has now. So whatever their level, or whatever that lesson, whatever the materials are, that's what they know now. Okay, so before the lesson starts, that's where they begin. That's what they know. And then in order to make a really good, interactive, engaging lesson, you want to go +1 of that. You want to, in other words, you want to make the difficulty level just above, one step above what they currently can do. That's a really classic learning technique in any discipline, but especially in language learning, where you say, here's what they know, here's what I want them to know, this is what I want them to be able to do, here's what they can do in the language, here's what I want them to do, and don't make it +2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because that's boring, that's not motivating, that's depressing. That's called, again, that's called stretching their knowledge, right? You want to stretch them, you want to, you want them to learn new things. Okay. Now, the opposite, you also want to focus on when you make lessons and that are collaborating, you want to also have them strengthen their skills. So whatever they know now, you want to have them do things that are one below what they can do. So what does that mean? It's kind of like review. The concept of reviewing your materials from before comes from this idea that you allow the student to show their strength, show what they can do. They already know it well. They're a master. And by the way, sometimes that's one student in a group who is strengthening while another one is stretching. Do you see that? That's called push and pull. And that's, if you're a teacher who pays attention to your class dynamics, you're able to put stretchers and strengtheners together. Right? When you're deciding how the groups work and how they go together, the best collaboration includes students who are sometimes strengtheners, sometimes stretchers or strengtheners. And if you can get both of those in one group, you're going to have a more interesting lesson. Okay? Now, how do you do all that? How do you know the N in Krashen's N? How do you know the N? Just like I mentioned already, and what I'm doing right now in this first webinar, is you need to conduct a needs analysis. You need to find out about your students. And to do that, to know about your students, you have to observe them, right? This is maybe not what you see in books. When you see needs analysis, you don't often see the expression observe your students. But really, look at their manner. Are they quiet? Are they talkative? How about, again, you can't customize to every single student, but generally, what's the dynamic of your class? Some classes are very chatty and talkative. Some have very similar interests. Some interests are very different. Some classes are completely mixed. The dynamics can be very different in different classes. Pay attention to that. And again, as you start to continue, if you continue teaching lessons, change your lessons to take advantage of those manners, interest, and dynamics. What do they do outside of the classroom? If you don't know what they're doing out of the classroom, like what's their day like? Do they go home? Do they have to take a bus right after? Do they have to go help their parents? You know, do they have part-time jobs? What do they do? That can affect how interested they are in the class and what, things that may be mysterious to you. Why does that student sleep all the time? Why does that student not really participate no matter what I do? Well, conduct a survey if you can't figure it out. If you can't talk to them and ask, you conduct a fun survey. We're going to talk about using things like Google Forms to just ask a quick survey. For lower level students, if you teach young learners, you can do this by just having them use pictures and multimedia more. You can have them sharing things they like or dislike. Again, you can test them. You can put that into your lessons. And again, that comes naturally with the book materials that I saw for, again, let me click on this right here. Here's the website that I saw for your materials, right? For some of you who are using these. That's something I want to find out too. I want you guys, I'm going to ask you this while we're, while we're on the break before the next webinar. The next webinar is 2 weeks from today. So I would like to know if you teach these books and these levels and what you do. Because again, once I know more about exactly what you're teaching, I don't know. I just learned about what grade levels you guys teach and about your background. So I'm learning new things right now. So again, I want to learn about this, but again, when you're teaching these materials, whatever your materials are, if it's lower level students, just make it more visual, make it, again, more interactive, more physical. Notice patterns, like I said, and take advantage of them. Use students in your teaching whenever you can. That always, if that student is the student who has some funny ideas, but you notice that other students like it, then grab it. If that person is already a comedian in your class and everybody likes her or him, then if they have a good sense of humor, then take advantage of it. Let them be part of your performer to help you get the lesson across. And again, it depends on the situation. And as I learn more, I can show you more exactly based on your situation, how you could do that, okay? Now, making materials more relevant means that you have to get out of the books, whatever textbook you're teaching. I know it's easy to teach the textbook and you're required to use the textbook, but the more you're in the textbook and you just stick to the textbook, it's going to be dull. It's going to be boring. Of course, you need to adapt, but you have to adapt to modalities. That means you have to try to teach the book materials in a different way. So if the book has something about some grammar point, like you're doing the to be verbs, something simple, right? Like is, am, are. If you're teaching that out of the book and it has a picture in a scene, then you can find videos that might teach the same thing in a more dynamic way, a short 2-minute video that makes the same points as the book, but it gets out of the book. And it's moving and it's dynamic and it's more interesting. It's got sound. It's going to be more interesting than just teaching it in the book. And it's not hard. The materials are already there for you on the internet, free to use, usually. Okay, create scenes. Do you guys like to use acting? Make roles. Make students have to act out scenes, or again, based on the dynamics that you see in the class. And again, any level. College students love to act. High school students love to act. Not everyone, but again, you can use this idea of creating scenes so that it's more real. Make the classroom the learning experience. Pay attention again to the environment out of school, because then you get tips, you get ideas about what you can bring into the classroom. So if those students, when they go home after, if they all go to like a particular part of the city that has a certain character or something, then bring that into the classroom, that character, use that setting. So if you're talking about a theme like things related to food and eating, like, okay, we're teaching eating verbs, we're teaching ways to refer to the different vocabulary related to dining or eating, then don't do it from the book exactly. Take it out of the book and grab, say, okay, we're over in that particular place that everybody knows. Okay, and then we're eating that particular food. Yeah, again, make it real. Let students lead the materials where possible. Again, that gives them that strengthening that makes them feel good, and they feel happy because they can show off. And it doesn't matter the level of the student. Everybody likes to be able to use language, especially is taught, should be taught in a way that helps them to use the materials, not just memorize. Okay, be smart. Organize yourself for reuse. That's a big one because we all are too busy. You guys are busy teachers. I know I'm taking your time right now. I'm very aware of your time. And whenever you can, think about it, be smart. When you're designing something for one class or for one year or one semester or one lesson, think about, okay, how can I kind of make a kind of template for it so that I can just grab that and that'll be my starting point for the next lesson. I don't have to recreate materials. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Be smart. Okay, this is the last thing I want to do. Then I want to get us into another talking activity on the next part. But I wanted to show you this short video that has to do with cooperation and collaboration, because these two are very similar, but we really want to try to have collaboration rather than just cooperation. Okay, because collaboration is more interesting. It's going to be more engaging. Okay, so let's watch this. And again, I'm going to watch the chat real quick. If you guys can't hear the sound, please say it in the chat. Say no sound. Okay, once I started, I think you should be able to hear the sound, but let's make sure.
The difference between cooperation and collaboration. Cooperation begins with mutual respect, while collaboration begins with mutual trust. Cooperation requires transparency, but collaboration requires vulnerability. Cooperation includes shared goals, but collaboration includes shared values. Cooperation is independent, but collaboration is interdependent. Cooperation is often short-term, while collaboration is often long-term. Cooperation involves the sharing of ideas as a group. However, collaboration involves generating entirely new ideas together. Both cooperation and collaboration are vital for creative work. Collaboration without cooperation can lead to groupthink, but cooperation without collaboration can lead to disunity. However, collaboration plus cooperation means deeper work, more innovation, and better quality.
Yeah. Oh, let me go back to that for a second here. Let me go back one more and show you. Again, if you want to see this video, play it slower and think it through a little bit more, you can just type in that title in YouTube. It's very easy to find it. But did you notice that he really emphasized at the end of this video that you have to have both? And I think whenever I've seen group work in classrooms, when I've been doing teacher training, there is an overemphasis on cooperation, and collaboration is not really achieved because, again, teachers are thinking, they don't realize, but they're trained and they're thinking in a kind of product way. Like, I need to accomplish this thing, this thing, this thing. And it's the things that he mentioned for cooperation, the idea of them sharing ideas, the idea of them kind of, working together, being independent, being contributing to, but collaboration comes from the things that I mentioned earlier in this webinar. Okay. Again, the things related to ethos and pathos, especially, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's think now then about the A and the V of CRAVE, the culture of learning, and video and multimedia. So to do that, again, I want to get you guys going. Let's get on another Jamboard here. Here's the two things I want us to respond to. What does your school care most about in learning? Or what do you care most about in learning? So what I'm looking for is for you guys, again, I'm going to go over here to my second Jamboard I have set up. And by the way, how you get this background is you can create these backgrounds and then you can set them up here by clicking this, and you can see it's got an image that I've chosen. So you could just do colors if you wanted to for a background, right? Again, I can show you, it's really simple. You can figure this out yourself. But what I'd like you guys to do, again, is to grab your Post-it notes, your sticky notes, and then maybe say, what do you care about, or what does your school care about? When I mean learning, maybe your school cares about grades. Maybe your school cares about, the goal, the official, wow, what did I do? OFFICIAL, official curriculum. Maybe they care about that. Maybe that's what the school cares about. And maybe I care most about my satisfaction. Again, it can be something very specific, or it can be something very general. So again, go ahead and whatever you think about one of these, what's important to you when you think about what you're doing, what your overall goal is in the classroom, when you're talking about learning, what is it that you care about? Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and open this up for everybody. So I'll go to the share again, and it's already set for editing. So I'll just copy the link, put it over here for you, and then you guys can jump on the first. Again, if you did the first Jamboard, please don't do it now. Let others have a chance to join this one. So any participants who didn't get a chance to do the last one, you guys jump on here now. If you already did it, just kind of wait and let others do it, okay? Yeah, just to let you know about Jamboards here, you can, if you see up on the top here where I'm circling, this create frame button, you can go up to 20 frames. So you can have 20 different pages in one Jamboard, but no more than 20. So you could have a bunch of these all together. Yeah, you can see somebody hit the clear frame. I mean, somebody set the background, they changed the background. That's okay. Again, you don't need to get upset. But that's one thing about Jamboard is when your students, if they change something like that, then you need to go back and reload your image. So what I'd need to do here is go, I didn't plan this, but I have it right over here. I can grab it and pull it back up again. Where is my background? There it is. Okay. So what I can do is just go here to set the background, and I'm going to do an image. And again, I can just drag and drop it back into there. And it should load. There we go. So again, if your students do that, have your backgrounds ready so you can pull them back in. But again, just go with it. Again, when you guys make a comment, just pull it over so we can see it. You don't have to put it in the space, whatever, just put it anywhere so we can see it. I'm just pulling these out, and it looks like we're getting some good comments so we can read it. Grades, I see a lot of grades. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Curriculum, developing students' capacity, real testing, real teaching. I think that's what you guys want, I'm guessing, not what the school wants. Or does the school want real teaching? That would be nice. Grades, quality of teaching, students' full development. Yeah, I like the word full there in full development. I care most about the practicality of the knowledge of skills, students thinking. Yeah, okay. Real communication. Yeah, my school, this one here is probably, I can relate to this one. I've seen a lot of, again, a lot of teachers say this one here when I've been teaching them, that the school cares about the students' results, their behavior, the quality of their teaching and learning. Yeah, so that the school wants you to do everything, but of course they really do watch you, and they want to make sure that you're getting, you look like you're a good teacher, not just in getting the grades, but you have to look like you're a good teacher too. You should be accomplishing things. 21st century global students. Yeah, so we have a little bit of multimedia included in that goal. Speaking, yeah, the basic 4 skills, quality of the students. Yeah, let's open this one up a little bit. Practicality of the knowledge and skills in this thinking process. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, okay. Looks like we're kind of quieting down here. I don't see any new activity here. So yeah, we have some good ideas here. This is about similar to what I expected, but again, I need to know a little bit more. I'm just asking you really basic these questions, while we're doing the webinar, but I'm going to put up a discussion board on again here on this page. I'm going to put up a discussion board for webinar 1 for you guys. Again, you don't have to do it if you're too busy, it's fine. But if you want to give me more, if you want to tell me more, I'll put up some. You can see that we have here some burning questions where you're going to be able to put questions that you have. Again, I'll add a discussion there for you guys to talk about things like that. Again, if you want to add more detail to make these, because this Jamboard is just very simple, but it gives me a little bit of idea there. That's good. Okay. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to this then. Yeah. What's going on? Oh, I know. It is confused. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now, this is what you have to do with Prezi sometimes. It does. Okay, come on, Zoom. Okay, move out of the way, Zoom. Okay, there. Are you done, Zoom? Okay, sorry, I have to stop sharing just for a moment so I can pull the screen back because Zoom has blocked me out. Is it doing it? Okay, one more time. Sorry, just one moment. Let me go click this separately. Okay. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Let's pull it back in. There we go. Okay, now we're back. Here are, again, I like to show you the basics of what other people say, what the professionals say about classroom learning culture. How can you help it? Well, at the beginning, it's teacher stuff, right? You got to do your teacher stuff. You got to set basic rules and boundaries, but you notice that you make rules, not frames. Do you know the idea of framing? Framing means that you set what's important to you and you leave out what is not important. And you make that clear. You make that clear to your students and to yourself, right? So you're saying, I'm interested in this, and so that's inside my frame, and I'm not interested in that. That's outside my frame. Don't do that generally. Try not to do that because students will find that boring because you put them into a frame, they don't like it because they think, if they want to think their own thoughts, they want to be outside the frame often. And if the teacher doesn't let them, then the teacher will try to just get on with the lesson. The student will do something that doesn't fit. But try not to do that. Just set only the basic rules and boundaries. That means if you're having trouble with a particular aspect in your class, then, and it's important and there's nothing you can do about it, then you have to establish not to do that from the beginning. But don't set, try to minimize your rules and don't put restrictions as much as you can from the beginning. You want students to kind of be, you know, really equal to you as much as you can in terms of participation. You really want them to be involved. So it requires them to have freedom. Encourage risk-taking. You've probably heard of Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken poem, very famous. He talks about how his life would have, you know, he took a, you know, he reached that break in the road where he had to choose a path, and he went down one path and he chose the road that was not taken by everyone, and that made all the difference. What I mean is again, keep an open mind. Encourage students to make mistakes. Again, at any level, encourage them, create an atmosphere, a culture where you make mistakes in front of them. You try something new. Grab Google Jam and try to do it in your classroom without knowing what you're doing. Students will learn so much and they will laugh no matter what their level, because they will see that you're taking a risk. And you tell them, you say, I've never used this before. Maybe you guys could help me. You can fake that too, by the way. I do that all the time. Something that I know very well, I act like I don't. I don't lie or do anything like that. But what I mean is I come in kind of innocently. I say, oh, how do I do this? I think, is it like this? Or again, look like I know this can't be done in all situations. And you have to establish the culture where the students don't see you as someone who doesn't know what they're doing, unprofessional. Again, we can talk about exactly how to create that. But once you have that, and you have the students realize that a lot of them will realize, oh, this is just the way he is. He actually knows how to do those things, but he's trying to get me to kind of take the lead. Students will realize that without actually saying it to you or saying it out loud. They realize it's part of your kind of routine, is that, oh, the teacher's trying something new here. And by the way, sometimes really do it. Really try something that you've never done before. Really take risks and let the students see you make mistakes. Again, and tell them why that taking that risk was really important, and that's what they should do. Personalize everything. Tell students what to do. Don't tell them how to do it. Whenever you can, don't tell them how to do anything. Sometimes don't even give them directions. Don't give them scaffolding. You learned how to do scaffolding in all your teacher training, but sometimes it's better now. It's more empowering, and it's a better learning culture when you just give the students the materials and let them start. And then you start teaching based on what they need, what mistakes they make. Again, don't worry, you'll be able to get your teaching in, you'll be able to tell them what to do, but let them just start by themselves sometimes. You've heard of flipped learning. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Flipped classrooms, where you have students learn the materials outside of class, and then they come to class and they interact. They interact with the materials in class. But there's another kind of flipped learning where you just actually flip your lesson. So what would normally be the end of your lesson, let it be the beginning. Well, not exactly, but what I mean is, think about it. When you present, this is the normal kind of way to do something, right? You say, okay, here's our new task. This is our target language that we want to learn today, for example. We want to learn this set of vocabulary and these things. This is what we want to focus on, or we want to focus on this reading, these paragraphs. We want to learn this. So normally you would go through and you might tell them things about it. You say, okay, well, this is this, that's that. Here's what this means, or this is what's that. Pay attention to this. You start teaching, right? You start giving them the basics, and maybe you have them do an activity. Well, don't do that. Try in your lesson not to do that. Again, you don't want to do it just randomly once or twice. You want it to be part of your routine so students know what's going on. You just give them the material and let them go. And then you provide the support as you see them. You start to walk around and see what they're messing up. What mistakes are they making? And then that's where you begin the lesson That's where you begin by going, okay, I need to talk about this and that, but you can see I don't need to talk about that other thing because they seem to have gotten it already. They figured that out. Again, flip your actual lesson to where you let them try it first without you guiding, and then guide based on what they need. Become a student. Again, sit down. Have you ever sat down in your classroom and had a student be the teacher that day? You can actually designate student teacher Fridays. For example, if you have a class that you meet multiple times a week, then say, okay, every Friday or maybe once a month or whatever, you say you're going to be the teacher and you give them materials. Yeah, again, there's many ways to do it, but you should consider it because students love to, again, especially if you do the N-1, if you begin, make sure they know enough to be able to get up there, but they're going to teach something new as well. And again, if you encourage them to take risks, then they feel comfortable doing that. Okay. Again, space in lessons for downtime. Don't have them just doing, on task, on task, on task, on task. They're working. It's boring. Build in rewards. This is another kind of reward. If you tell the students, we need to accomplish this activity. If we get it done well, sooner, then we can have free time for you guys to do something else, something you want to do. Again, let them squeeze or expand the lesson more than you think. So again, think about whatever your goals are for the day. If you have 3 things you need to accomplish today in today's lesson, then tell them about it. Make it clear to them. We need to finish today. Here's what we need to do. We need to do number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now, if we finish those early and we do it well, then we can have that, whatever that extra time is, we can do something else. Make it fun, of course. Let the students show you how. Again, you are not good at making the lesson fun for the students. The students are going to show you how it's going to be the most fun for them. Again, through the methods that I talked about through 1 through 5. Let them show you. Let them base whatever, how do you make a lesson more fun? Well, there is no one way. It's done based upon what those students find fun. And so pay attention, do all the things we talked about already, and you'll see a lot of ideas if you pay attention where you can make the lesson more fun. Again, reward for process, not product. So don't give them a reward because they got the highest score on the test. You can do that, but don't only do that. Encourage when they're doing something, not when they're winning, but when they show some good behavior, they're collaborating well. Again, you say, wow, you guys had different opinions. You guys were really having a hard time, but you really worked well trying to solve it. Good job. Somehow you can have a reward system based on them kind of, doing what they, a process kind of thing in the middle, formative, not summative. Discipline restoratively. Apathy is the only enemy to learning. When you're a teacher, that should be every teacher's motto. That is my motto. The only thing that I cannot handle well in the classroom, no matter what, is apathy. Apathy means no interest. When you try something with a student and they say, I don't care, or they just sit there, whatever. They're just not interested in the lesson. It's clear you try this, you try that, you try this, you try that, but there's just some students you cannot reach. That's the hardest thing to deal with as a teacher. Because when I'm talking about discipline, if you have a noisy student who disrupts your class, or they get off topic, or they're doing something else, don't just discipline them and say, get back on topic or stop that. No, pay attention to them. What are they doing? Because whatever they're doing, other students might find it interesting too. And actually, you can let that student become a little leader. You can grab whatever it is that's kind of making them off topic. And if you can, incorporate that into this lesson or a future lesson. you know that that student does that a lot, then that student becomes your champion. That student has a lot of energy and you can work with that. That's what I mean. Apathy is the hardest thing to deal with because there's no energy. You can't get the student going because there's nothing to work with. But when you have discipline of any other sort where the students are having troubles, causing troubles, or not on task, as long as they're having activity, their interest or energy, you can work with that. Use it. Use that energy. Number 9 here, again, highlight a variety of positive behaviors. Everybody's different in your class. Pay attention again to them, and you will notice that they're doing things that are actually really cool. Things that you didn't think of when you were designing your lesson. You go, wait, look at that student. Look what they're doing. And then you highlight that to other students. Say, look at that. We didn't talk about that, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Again, I'm being very general here, but we're talking in more specifics later about how you could apply that to exactly your lesson. But again, it comes from paying attention and lead by example. Your attitude in the classroom sets the tone to the whole thing. You cannot make your learning culture more engaging, more dynamic if you yourself are not interested, or if you're just trying to accomplish the goal of engagement. You're saying, I want my class to be more interesting, so I'm doing things to make it interesting. Well, no, you need to, again, if things don't go straight in the class, you have to show the students how you handle that. If things are not being accomplished in the way you want them, you have to show them how you handle it. Again, the more that you are closer to your students in showing kind of like you're human like them, show your human qualities to your students as much as you can, and your attitude will become contagious. It'll open up students more because they realize they can make their mistakes. They can be kind of rowdy sometimes, but they realize you're not going to be angry at them. You're going to pull that in and try to use that, and they learn from that. They watch what you do. The best way to teach them how to be dynamic or how to have a good learning kind of approach is for you to have it yourself. Again, paying attention, paying attention is so important because it helps you do all these other things. And that's hard to do when you're tired. It's really hard to do when you're tired. We're about at the end here. Exploration, I figured we wouldn't quite get to, but just to give you a little bit, I'm going to leave you guys with a Jamboard here for you guys to jump on, that anybody who wants to after the class finishes, you can jump on it. But what I want us to do now is think about the whole enchilada, because exploration comes from all the other things we just talked about, like how you get your lessons to be exploratory, how you get them to kind of be open and more, to develop into new areas. It's called the whole enchilada. That's a Mexican food you see in the picture. The whole enchilada means everything together. So let's put it all together. Let's think about this. Where do we go from here? Based on all these things that hopefully I just reviewed for you, let's start our next webinar. Let's get our webinar going with more focus on exactly methods and techniques that we can use and do, right? So you can see that I have some choices put up here: PBL, playlists, station rotation, choice boards, jigsaw method. Have you guys heard of these kind of approaches? Maybe you have some other ones that you could add to this Jamboard. I'll give you the link in just a second. Okay, so I'll look at that after the class is done. But again, let's finish with any questions you have in the last few minutes. Just to give you a preview, again, our next webinar, number 2, is we're going to be talking about alternative approaches to course design and assessment. So this is different ways to kind of design a class and how you can kind of have these techniques, especially these approaches that I just mentioned before: the jigsaw method, station rotation, choice boards, playlists, and especially PBL. And I'll show you an example of a lesson that I've done with PBL on the university level, but I think you'll see how it works in action. And so you can see how you might be able to apply that to one of your lessons. But I'll talk about the others in the same way and get feedback from you guys and that'll be good. So let me give you the link, and then here's the last Jamboard. So I'm going to go up here, and hopefully, let's do this real quick. Again, everybody can edit it. So I'll copy that link and then throw it over here. And again, you guys can do this whenever you want. I'll leave this up. That link will continue to be there. You can play with it. Please don't erase everything when I'm not there. And all these other links too. Please don't erase any, don't get rid of, be careful of hitting clear. This is the one you don't want to hit. Clear frame. Please don't clear the frame because that gets rid of everybody's wonderful input. Okay, so what you can do anything else you want, get rid of the background, it doesn't matter. I can put the background back, but don't clear the frame because I want to see everybody's answers, okay? So that's it. So again, I'm just interested in just to finish, any general questions or specific that you have. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we can do that through the chat, or anybody can speak up. I'm all done for today. Does anyone have any comments or any kind of questions to ask about what I said today? I know I overwhelmed you, didn't I? I covered a lot of ground. But I hope that most of this was review for you, because you guys are good teachers, I'm sure, because you're here. Good teachers attend workshops like this, and you guys know what you're doing. I know you guys have a lot of skills. I don't know what you know, but I'm going to learn more and more what you know. Yeah. Yeah, if anybody needs to leave, you can go ahead and leave. We're at the end of the session. Again, what we're going to do is, the more information you guys give me about what you're interested in on the Jamboards, and also on the discussion on our homepage, once you guys have access to that homepage, then I can tailor, especially I'm going to be asking you guys about the materials you use in the classroom, because I need to know that. If you use particular textbooks, or those particular textbooks, which ones, what materials are you using? Because that, I will grab those and I will use those. I'll actually make lesson plans for you based on what your stuff is, so I can show you examples of how you do the things I'm talking about. Okay, so it's very important that the more you guys give me, the better the more interesting the lesson will be to you, the more practical and useful it'll be for you. But this first webinar was just to give you a background to kind of getting your head straight, and make sure you understand what makes an engaging approach to teaching. Yeah, you guys are saying thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah. I hope I've opened up your eyes a little bit, expanded your kind of approach to thinking about, and now we can get more detailed in the next couple webinars and get more practical, and hopefully, give you things that you can use, because that's what it's all about, is how do you actually get in the classroom and do these things.
So thank you, Dr. Thomas Webster, for a wonderful webinar today. As the organizer of CML Retract, I want to say sorry for the technical problem at the beginning of the webinar today, because I could not share the screen. The account of CML Retract, the Zoom account was updated, so we had a technical problem with that. Sorry again. And as I shared with you, after this webinar, Ms. Lan will send you the account to access the Tech4Teach platform. Maybe tomorrow morning, she will send the account for everybody. And please access the Tech4Teach platform to download the material, to get the file that Dr. Thomas shared today, and also join some discussion on the forum if it's available. Once again, thank you very much for joining us today, and the next webinar will be on November the 23rd, Wednesday afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. So thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. Thank you very much, my colleagues and friends from all around Vietnam. Have a good afternoon and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye, Mr. Lin.
Yes,
Thank you.
bye-bye.